Hello again, everyone. I'm Kyle Benjamin alongside Phil Spain, Dalton Hopkins, and Steven Stump, live from Homestead Miami Speedway. To start the show, our at-track team is there. We are bringing you this edition of Post-Race Conversations live from Homestead, brought to you by My Place Hotels. Front Stretch is proud to be the official partner of My Place Hotels with plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels. My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Racing fans can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% on your stay at any of the nationwide properties. That's 10% off nationwide with code FRONTSTRETCH. This racing season, make My Place your place. And Homestead this weekend is Kyle Larson's place. 2 out of 3 and almost a third.
Yep. Yeah. It was pretty darn close after what happened yesterday. Honestly, I don't think you can find anybody out there that would say that he doesn't deserve all 3 after what we saw last night. But he had a pretty strong running today, but wasn't the strongest, I don't think.
Yeah. They also had a bunch of issues. They also had a bunch of issues they had to come back from. They started I think 14th. The car wasn't great at the start. Then there was the contact with the Josh Ferry on pit road that did a bunch of damage to the side of Larson's car. So they had to, they had some issues to work by, but they made their way back towards the front. And just when it looked like Larson was out of it, he was, 3 seconds back, I think, with about 20 to go. It looked like, he was losing ground. And then suddenly he just starts ripping fast lap after fast lap. He runs down Chase Briscoe, he runs down Bubba Wallace, and then he runs down Alex Bowman, and he wins by over a second.
Again, at a track where you've got to kind of be high, wide, and handsome, ripping the fence, that plays to Kyle Larson's strengths a little bit, as evidenced by the right rear of his car, which was down through the carbon fiber to the honeycomb underlayment there. Dalton and Steven have stepped there. There they go.
We're back.
They're back.
We're back. People are texting my phone right now. They don't know that I'm doing a live show.
Well, tell them, they can hold their, unless it's a national security emergency.
Yeah, that's right.
Your day job with the U.S. Army. But for right now, let's HMS, Hendrick Motor Speedway, Hendrick Motorsports. Kyle Larson dominates the weekend in the HendrickCars.com livery across all 3 series. The kid's good. He's very good. Made a statement. I think today that he is going to be, as we all expected, a contender before this thing's over with.
Yep, and this is his 30th win of his Cup career. He led the most laps in Las Vegas. Strategy, just didn't work out for them last week, but he's been fast. I mean, he's doing exactly what we expect him to do. But all of Hendrick looks really strong. Bowman has 5 top 10s in 6 races. Byron's leading the points by more than half a race. Even Chase Elliott's, doing well in 6th. So, so far, even if they may not have all the wins like Christopher Bell does, Hendrick as a whole has been firing on all cylinders to start the year.
Well, they've got 2 out of the first 6, and they've got the biggest one of them all, William Byron with the 500, who had another strong day. I like the top 10 today. Some names up there that you wouldn't have expected, I think, at the start of the season to see. Chris Buescher, another top 10. Ryan Preece inside the top 10. Justin Haley, a top 10. AJ Allmendinger, a top 10. Mm-hmm. I think Homestead, again, one of those tracks that equalizes the field a little bit. And I think is, we're not going to take the nickname Lady in Black away from Darlington. That would be sacrilege, and we're not going there. However, if you look at the fence, that teal aquamarine wall down there in the Everglades has a fair bit of Goodyear rubber on it, which I think is really cool. It's a testament to how close these guys are getting to the wall.
Yeah, I think a lot of that teal coloring is replaced by a more darker blue shade from Kyle Larson's HendrickCars.com Chevrolet. With the amount of times that he hit the wall, what did we count? What was it, like 20 times? I think he probably hit the wall today. So, and he still got the win. He was doing that all weekend actually. But yeah, it's like you said, Kyle. I mean, this is it's not Darlington, of course, but this is nonetheless a driver's track. It is a very unique place. As a lot of drivers, a lot of people were saying it all weekend long, is that this is a driver's track where they can showcase their own talents. And as a result, like you mentioned, some of those guys in the top 10, we saw guys like AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher, Justin Haley as well. Yeah, in the top 10. So those are guys that were able to come through the woodwork and show off their stuff and show that even though they might not have the best equipment, they could still run up front. And they did that today.
Bowman Busher, I know for sure. Or I'm sorry, Briscoe. Bowman and Briscoe run dirt. Chris Busher, I believe, has had some experience on dirt. Tyler Reddick came up through the dirt late model ranks where you got to run the fence. So not a surprise at all to see those guys who have that style of racing in their background and pedigree successful here. I do want to mention something before we get into more discussion of the race. Kyle Busch with the 21st place finish after the race sends out a cryptic tweet saying news dropping at 18:51 on Monday, which is just about 7 p.m. Eastern, right? Dalton, if I did the military time correctly.
I think that'd be 6:51. Yes, or
6:51.
7 p.m. Eastern. Yes,
just about 7 p.m. Eastern. No idea what that's about. No one at the track seems to know. Has there been any inkling whatsoever that there would be news rumors? I mean, I know the garage rumor mill is always churning, but this seems to have come out of nowhere.
I haven't heard nothing, and I don't know. For all we know, it may be nothing, it may be something. We'll just have to wait and see tomorrow.
I haven't heard anything myself. I don't think there's anybody here. I think that's kind of the story, is that nobody seems to know what that's about. I mean, I think there's the only person that might know is, let's face it, Jordan Bianchi probably knows, but yeah, Kyle Busch too. Kyle Busch, obviously he knows.
Would hope so. I would hope he would know. Yeah.
yeah, I would hope too. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they got something special in store for him. It's a surprise.
He does turn 40 in May.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 month early birthday party.
Could be, but interesting. And we'll kind of leave it with this because we're not going to go full on sports radio speculation here. Curious though that the 18 has made an appearance and the 51.
51 yeah. And the 51. Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Both numbers.
Draw your own conclusions. That's a number that he's run. His brother ran the 51. I'm pretty sure Kurt is mostly, if not completely, retired at this point. But we'll see. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock, frontstretch.com. We'll have the news there.
That we will.
We will.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, which is all we can really say. But it's silly season, and it's race 6. Phil, I heard you hooting and hollering and raising a ruckus up there in Southwest Virginia as Bubba Wallace was well in contention of this one. What'd you see from the 23 crew today?
I saw an improvement, I'll say he finished. He finished for the first time in weeks. Just whether it was the brake issue at Phoenix, getting involved in a wreck last week, that that really had derailed everything. It derailed some great runs that he had, and especially even at places like Daytona, he was doing good there too. But it's finally the finish that I think that he's been looking for the past couple of seasons, and I mean he even said it in his interviews and stuff. Where there are races where they've been able to execute, but then it gets to that third stage and it all falls apart. But he was able to finish it off today. I'm sure he would have liked the victory, but I'm not sure. I don't know if it was Jordan or someone else that asked him, about the moral victories. Does this feel like a moral victory in this situation? And like he says, it's a step in the right direction and everything. So it'll be good to see, and especially next week, with going to a short track and seeing, Kenny continue to keep getting better. He had the fastest lap today, so that ended up with a playoff point. So that actually, works out, and I think he's, as of right now, 7th in points. So that's a lot better than what he would be normally at this time. Normally it's somewhere around 16th to 20th, but just steadily improving. I'm sure, the new crew chief and everything has kind of updated his outlook a little bit. And what I hear whenever I'm listening to the radio is just more of, Charles getting to him and telling him, hey, these are good lap times, good places that you're running on the track. And, it's something, that keeps him pumped up. And like, even when Bowman had got past him, they had told him, hey, we feel like he's going to come back to you. And Bubba was just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. And just finished on. But, you see Larson get there. And I will say, and I know you'd asked me about Bubba, but, with Larson, at least this weekend, none of those victories came easy. Like, in the truck race, he spun out, had trouble. He still battled back. And, if the 11 truck didn't have issues, maybe it's a different story. But then yesterday with Sam Mayer and stuff like that, I'm sure he's very much, still kind of pissed that he wasn't able to sweep the weekend because of something like that. But, it was a day where none of those victories really came easy for him. But, and he just right place, right time.
I think he's going to contend for the weekend sweep in a few weeks here at Bristol, running all three. I believe they mentioned on the race broadcast. Bubba Wallace led 56 laps today, the second most out of apart from the 124 led by Ryan Blaney before his Ford motor decided to go up in smoke. And again, Penske car looking like the car to beat, only to not close out the deal. Not the first time we've said that this year. A little surprised that Penske has performed as well as they have and hasn't closed one out yet.
Yeah. And it's kind of surprising to say that because, if we look at the last 3 years, Penske hasn't been great to start the year, but then come playoff time, they're always there. They're winning at the right moments. They win the championship. Now it's kind of the exact opposite. I believe they led more laps than anyone else this season, and they just don't have the wins to show for it, and really even the finishes either. Like, Logano doesn't have a single top 10 through 6 races, not because he hasn't been fast enough. And likewise, Blaney now has 3 DNFs in a row. And it's shocking that the engine blew up because that's his second engine failure in the last 3 races. And before that, I believe his last engine failure was in 2019. So something clearly going wrong there at the moment. I don't know what it was, but, I got to say, like, if his engine makes it to the end, he looked like the guy to beat. Like, I was watching the lap times, the first stage, second stage, and he was putting up, just consistently putting up the fastest lap every single time around. And it was like no one was even close. So, and again, we saw a great finish with Bubba, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Larson, but it would have been fun to see what Ryan Blaney could have done with them if he had made it to the end as well.
Even before even before he blew up, he restarted 8th, I think, and he had worked his way up to 3rd.
Yeah, and he fell back to 11th, and then he made his way all back to the lead.
He was on top of it today.
That car was on rails, and compared to the rest of his teammates, 14th for Logano. Josh Berry, last week's winner, comes home 17th. That's, Penske Racing or Team Penske adjacent, car prepared at the same shop. Cindric second, and Blaney with the engine trouble, P almost last in 36th. Carson Hocevar rounding out the field, who had another great run going for not a rookie. He's in his, I guess, 3rd season driving a cup car, his sophomore campaign. 77, those Spire cars continue to be fast. And I think if Hocevar can figure out how to string segments together, I think being a teammate with Michael McDowell, kind of a senior mentor, someone who's been around, can teach him some racecraft, how to finish these things. I said it last week. I said it after Phoenix. I think Hocevar gets a win before the season's over, and I really think he gets a win before too many more weeks go by. He just has to stack some elements and put those pieces together.
See, I mean, even then, it's like all the pieces that haven't been coming together this year, they aren't really his fault. Like, he was running 12th, when the engine failed today. He qualified 3rd at Phoenix and got caught up in the big one. More problems last week as well. So it's like they have the speed. It's kind of like similar to Bubba Wallace. It's like they have the speed. They're just not getting the finishes to show for it. But, that speed, that speed is just something that, is much, much more valuable. And it's like, as long as they continue to show that, the good finishes should come eventually.
All right.
Second week in a row that Christopher Bell has been a non-factor. I know they don't really need to worry about much at this point with the 3 victories under their belt. They're safely in the playoffs. But if I was Joe Gibbs Racing, I might be a little concerned that they've had 2 weeks where they've been terrible.
I don't know if you can. I don't really know if you can even be concerned at this point because it's like you said, they've already gotten 3 wins, right?
Right.
I mean, they can cruise their way all into the playoffs at this. I mean, for the rest of the year. So
They are playing with house money.
They are playing with. I don't think this is a. I don't think this is a side effect of poor equipment on Joe Gibbs. I think this is a side effect of okay, this box is checked. Now we got to check all the other boxes, and I think the biggest box they need to check is that number 54 car.
Yeah. Let's also not forget either that Christopher Bell spun, brought out the very precaution of the day, and he did make some contact with the wall. And he was running top 15 when it happened too. And it was very clear that from that point on, his car was junk. He was
a little bit of
consistently the last
unforced error for sure.
Getting lapped, and it's like, Briscoe and Denny, they had great days and they had no problems. They finished top 5. Definitely agree with Dalton. They need to figure out what's going on with the 54 team because I think they're still outside the top 30 in points.
Where is the 54 in the rundown?
Car 54,
where are you? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's
25th.
Well, in the standings.
Oh, in the standings. Oh,
he finished 25th today. Sorry, the number does not pop well as you're scrolling here on NASCAR.com. So yeah, 25th. Not a great finish for Ty Gibbs. Sophomore slump for him, perhaps. We know there's some anecdotal evidence out there that the second year in the Cup Series is traditionally harder for drivers.
Third year at this point.
Is it really his third
junior year?
Yeah, he had that half season with 2311 because of Kurt's injury. So
almost 3.5.
Yeah, he's got plenty of seat time, but his start to the 2025 campaign, not awesome. But Denny, it looks like Denny Hamlin maybe has not turned things around because things weren't really backwards for him at this point. But I imagine driver number 11's got to be pleased with the top 5 and heading to a place next week where he's really, really good at Martinsville.
Yep. He's really good at Martinsville, even though he hasn't won there in 10 years. I think he's led 840 laps at the track since then, even though the finishes haven't shown for it in getting the victory circle. But, I did speak to Hamlin after the race today, and he said, it was obviously good to get a top 5, but they still think they're just not quite where they need to be with speed. They're still getting there. Obviously, he got to the front after starting in the 20s, but just didn't have this. Once he got there, he just was no match for Blaney, Bowman, and so on. So they have some work to do, but considering that it was a bit of a rocky start for them, this was a nice recovery.
Not only a good opportunity for Denny Hamlin, but I also personally believe a good opportunity for Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole as well. Because I talked to Chase Briscoe after the race, and he said when he was with Stuart Haas, he felt like they were maybe the second best team there, and the team that he thought was better was Joe Gibbs Racing. I think Hendrick Motorsports had them beat a little bit, but that's what that was from his own perspective. So I think there is a chance next weekend for Joe Gibbs to start maybe putting up some better numbers and recover from this slump that a lot of their teams seem to have right now.
So you guys talked post-race with just about everybody. I'm looking at a screen grab of the interview you all did with Ryan Preece. What did he have to say? Top 10, I'm sure he's got to be glad, one, to finish the race with all 4 wheels firmly planted on the asphalt, and 2, seems to be making great strides in his first few races with RFK.
Yeah, I think it's just a boost of confidence. Is that what he was saying? I mean, he's been a part of an organization that was supposed to be his big break for the last 2-3 years. And it didn't work out the way that anybody expected. And then lo and behold, at the end of the year, they closed down. So now he comes along with RFK, and it seems like he's finally getting the results that he should have gotten with SHR. He's already gotten 2 top 10s this year. He got his best result since, 2019 last week?
Yeah.
I think, so his best result in the Cup Series since 2019 last week. So, and a top 10 here at a track. And now he's going to Martinsville next weekend at a track where he's won the pole and he's won modified races with. So he's all smiles right now. I mean, he's got plenty to look forward to at the end for the rest of the year.
I think so. That team, with the Ford power, Ford has put a lot of time, effort, and energy and money into their development. Handful of cars inside the top 15. They get a win last week. Ryan Blaney was well on his way to having this one in the bag, before that trouble. So the Blue Oval squad, I think, making a statement to start the year. It'll be kind of interesting to see how, come Phoenix in November, how it shakes out, which manufacturer has the most trophies. I think so far it's still tilted towards Toyota's favor at this point. They've got 3, Chevy's got 2, Ford's got 1.
Correction, Christopher Bell has 3, Chevy has 2, Ford has 1.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So what other storyline should we look for? Kyle Busch's announcement tomorrow aside, heading into Martinsville next week. What's the chatter? What do we think?
I think it's the tires, and you got to talk to a lot of drivers before this race about it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was asking everyone about when it came to the bullpen yesterday morning, and a lot of varying opinions on the short track tire, on how the next gen car has changed, if the racing's going to be any better, if the option tire is the preferred tire, we use that the entire time. So there was a lot of differing opinions. I think probably the one that was the most picked up on was Kyle Busch saying that short track racing isn't any better. But then again, RCR, he hasn't run very well with RCR ever since he joined RCR. But I digress. I mean, Chase Elliott says there's nothing, you can't please everybody. And then guys like Chase Briscoe said that things have gotten better. Denny Hamlin says that there is progress being there, and that's Denny Hamlin talking. So I think there is a lot of speculation there's a lot of questions in the air about what next week's race is going to look like. And I think we're all just hopeful that it'll be a lot better than what it's looked like in the last couple of years.
If the weather, knock on my desk, stays kind of how it's been here in the mountains of the South in East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, if it's cooler, I think we might actually see another really good race like we did last year with Bristol. No one was ever really able to figure out why Bristol last year was such a banger. The speculation was that the cool temperatures helped a lot. So if we have a, kind of
somebody peed in the rubber compound.
Right. Well, that too, which Phil, I'm sure you've heard the stories living where you live now in Virginia, the trouble at the Goodyear plant down there in Danville. It's entirely possible that happened. I don't know if the racing
that
plant, but that plant has had some issues. Whatever they did to create that soft compound and all the, again, time, effort, money, and energy that's gone into making the racing good. I like it. I like taking a chance, throwing some options out there for drivers and crews to work with and see what plays out in a track like Martinsville, where you could have, 20 cautions before it's all said and done. Being able to manage your tire allotment and your option tires, when you take them, when you don't. We saw that happen at Phoenix, where some guys had the option tires on and then just got hosed by the yellow. Ty Dillon being chief among those, he was on such a burner there towards the end of the Phoenix race with the option tires, and then they just didn't pan out. But, such is the way the rubber crumbles sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, I certainly hope that is the case next week. I hope we get to see a lot more of what we saw at Phoenix and varying strategies, if not at least worn out tires like we saw today.
Yeah.
When, as drivers have been saying for years now with the Gen 7 car, Kyle Larson, by the way, leads everyone with 14 wins in this style, this body stylist configuration. Not too shabby. I was a little surprised by that stat, and we'll return to tires here in a second. He only has 14 wins in the Gen 7 car, and that's the most among active drivers. Take this back 10, 15 years, I think that number is even higher. I think that number is so low due to the increased parity kind of all the way through the garage. These drivers are super good. The teams are super good. Competition is closer than it's ever been. And you don't have anybody, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, those guys running away with seasons, Carl Edwards, guys who can knock off 10 wins in a season. You just don't have that anymore.
Well, guess what? Larson talked exactly about that in his presser, and he said that if the Gen 6 car was still here, he figured he could have maybe 50 wins by now instead of the 30 he has. But and you think about it, in his first season with Hendrick was 2021. He won 10 races. It's been three and a half seasons now, and he's only won 14. So he's still the best by far. But it's not what we saw with him in the Gen 6 either.
Right.
And that's, I think, what NASCAR was aiming for, was to try to make it. They've tried to eke probably a little too many Game 7 moments out of your run of the mill races. Your early season contests at Homestead. Trying to keep everybody bunched up. I mean, it was we had a pass for the lead with less than 5 to go. It's a good race. That's kind of what fans want to see. But at the end of the day, racing, at least for me, is one of those sports where it's okay if somebody goes out and absolutely waxes the field from time to time, because the idea is to be the fastest, not be the closest to the competition. So
this is exactly what we were talking about on our car ride back home last night after Larson didn't win.
Yeah.
We were saying the exact same thing. We were saying, you know what? It's okay. Someone can put some a butt whooping every once in a while. It's
Right.
still fascinating to us.
Yeah, like when's the last time we saw 5 lead lap cars in an Xfinity race
Exactly.
like that?
Right.
And I mean, it didn't finish that way, but I can't. It's been a long time since that happened.
Right. And if you think about it, the racing that, everybody claims that they want us to go back to, like the early 90s and, mid 2000s type stuff. What do we have? We had people where they were putting, butt whoopings on the field, where Earnhardt was lapping all the way up to 7th or 8th place in a race. And those guys didn't complain about it. They just dealt with it, and I think we're going to eventually at some point get back to it. But I do remember it was a couple of years ago. It had to have been probably just before, I think it was like the off season of 2020, like right before 2022 with the new car, when they were testing it. I remember Denny saying that it's okay. You're going to see whenever, if they add horsepower or whatever they're going to do, which, they haven't ended up adding horsepower. You're going to see those races where, people are going to put a butt whooping on the field, and that's okay. But, you see, some fans weren't happy with it yesterday, and it's just like, well, what more do you want? That's a guy that just went out there and put it out there for you. But, in the way with the overtime crap, we ended up getting, he ended up getting screwed out of it. So
that's the racing purist and the fan excitement don't necessarily always coincide. One of the best races I've ever seen in person, Alex Rossi, 2019 at Long Beach. He won by like 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Clinical drive. I mean, he had everybody covered, just dominated. Did it again at Road America later on that year. And fans were complaining. It's like, you just watched an absolute phenom in this car go out and put on a clinic. And you get those days where Kyle Larson goes out and puts on a clinic. And I wish more fans could appreciate watching a driver execute their craft with such precision, because it is amazing to watch when it happens.
Yep.
Correct.
All right.
Agreed,
Final
100%.
thoughts as we wind down. Homestead, does it deserve the championship race?
And if we're judging off the racing, I'd say it did. And while it may not have been the greatest turnout, there was also the wildfires in the area. There was concern if this would even run.
And bees.
So it seems a little understandable for why it may have been a little bit more sparse than we're used to. But, overall, if we were to choose a place to have the finale, Homestead would get my vote.
I agree
Certainly
100%.
Racing a little more exciting than Phoenix. Phoenix slightly closer to a major. The track is slightly closer to the major metro area than Homestead Miami, which is just about in Cuba. By the time you get down there, it is way out in the middle of nowhere, but it puts on amazing racing. Would love to see the championship back there at some point. Fingers crossed. We can only hope. Maybe that's Kyle Busch's announcement tomorrow. He's going to announce that Homestead's returning to the finale in 2026. I don't know.
Never know.
Yeah.
All right. Who do you guys have for Martinsville next week?
We got to see practice and qualifying first before we ever even
Yeah.
get into that.
Off the top of my head, Denny Hamlin.
I think that's a safe bet. That's probably
Yeah.
too safe.
Yeah, that's at least already a good top 5, top 10 guess. Let me see. I might go Blaney, but we got to figure out if Ford has gotten
He
rid
was
of
my
his
second pick.
engine woes. Yeah.
You know who is really, really good at Martinsville and hasn't necessarily had the finishes to reflect their early season speed?
Who?
The defending champ, Joey Logano.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like I said, it's all dependent on if Ford and Penske has figured out these engine woes. But I hate to circle back a little bit on that about Penske, but at the same time, those guys, they'll figure it out. They'll at least be one of those cars in the championship floor at this rate. I hate the foreshadow, but they find a way.
They do find a way, Team Penske, obviously. One of the best to do it in the business, not just in NASCAR, but in motorsports in general. So that's all I've got. If you guys are, if you're satisfied with the topics of conversation tonight, I think we can put a pin in this one.
I think that's still good. I think that's about good. We've got covered all the bases, and we still got our work isn't done either. So we got 2
sidebars coming out tonight. Make sure to check them out on frontstretch.com.
Absolutely. We got frontstretch.com for all your racing news across a variety of disciplines. NASCAR this weekend, we've got a crew out in Thermal, which is somewhere in the California desert, covering IndyCar. So if you're looking for racing info, head to frontstretch.com. You guys head back to your hotel. My Place Hotel is proud to be the official hotel sponsor of Front Stretch this year. Plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly. My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Racing fans, use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% on your stay at any of our nationwide properties. That's 10% off nationwide with code FRONTSTRETCH. This racing season, be sure to make My Place your place. Gentlemen, a pleasure as always. Great to see you. Great to talk. We'll reconvene this party next Sunday post Martinsville. Break all that down. We'll circle back to whatever Kyle Busch is going to announce tomorrow, and just see what the racing world has to offer this week. But for now, for Phil and Dalton and Steven, I'm Kyle Benjamin. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel partner of Front Stretch. With plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels, My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Front Stretch fans can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% on your stay at any of our nationwide properties. Sign up for our Stay Rewarded program to get even more savings. With My Place Hotels, don't just stay rewarded.